Good morning, it's Friday, and that means it's time for our Lunch and Learn. And you know what? I was doing some editing on these recordings, and I say that every single Friday. So I guess that's a good thing. I don't know. I'm excited about this report because it's talking about the conductivity of the human body, and we deal with bioenergetics all the time. So this works on the physical state of the human being, not the matter, my flesh and blood, but the energy field that surrounds me. And so this is what we call bioenergetics. And so this report is going to talk to you about how you can enhance your bioenergetics and how the higher your cell resonates, the higher your frequency, the healthier you are. So this is really exciting because we do this all the time in our office, and people don't really understand how they can come in and their blood work says everything's perfect. Well, that just means you're not in a sickness and disease state if you're in the medical reference range. What we're looking at is the energy vortex that surrounds you, and we're looking at where are you resonating with that. So just like if you have a cell phone or a tablet or even one of those watches, if you don't plug it in regularly, guess what? It dies. So last week when I was doing the podcast, I have a digital recorder and it died. I need to plug it in. This week, my earbuds are dead, and so I need to plug them in. So just like our electronics need to be plugged in all the time, we need to be plugged in. So this report is going to be talking about that and how we look at bioenergy and how we can enhance that. So how do we know that we are electric? We know that we are electric because when we go to the doctor and we have an EKG or an EEG, what they're doing is they are measuring the electronic frequency of our heart and or our brain, depending on what they're measuring. It is an electrical impulse that makes our muscles contract. It is an electrical impulse that causes our nerve conduction. And so if we are not doing what we need to be doing as far as keeping ourselves plugged in, as it were, then we're not going to be functioning in the right way. So neurons, that's what's in our brain. In particular, they are highly electrical cells. And these are some cells that we don't necessarily think about because we think our brain is just going to do whatever it needs to do, right? But there's some things that we can do to help that. So understanding the electrical nature helps us understand difficult keys to health and the different factors that contribute to disease. So, as I said, the doctors rely on electrical activity to measure the way our hearts are working, the way our brains are working, and that kind of thing. And so we know that if the doctors are using that, then we know that it is the truth, and we are able to tap into that as well. Depending on variables such as age, fitness level, height, weight, the heart produces between 60 and 100 beats per minute. Now, this electrical energy powers the heart to contract, and it pumps the blood to our vessels, and we all know that. However, there are other things that we don't necessarily know about the electrical patterns in our body. So electrical patterns provide a blueprint that guides embryonic development. So this research was done by Michael Levin, professor of biology at Tufts University, who is the director of Tufts Center for Regenerative and Developmental Biology. This research suggests that understanding this phenomenon could further offer insights into regrowing limbs and organs, healing wounds, and preventing cancer. Now, I know that people know that your liver pretty much can regenerate if you give it the right kind of nutrition. Your liver can do that, but actually they're finding that all of your organs can do that if you give them the right nutrients and the right electrical charge. So the body relies on these electrical impulses for countless functions. The electrical phenomenon is one of the most common contributors to disease. If a cell is functioning at a high level, you're going to have enough energy to repel pathogens, to repel fungus, to repel whatever is trying to invade your field. So I am of a certain age, and I remember watching Star Trek on the TV. And so the Enterprise is going through space, and all of a sudden it encounters this alien force, and Captain Kirk would say, raise the shield. And so there would be cloaking device and things would come up and the Klingons or whatever, they'd be shooting whatever they're shooting, but it just bounces off because there's that cloaking device. Well, that's the same thing that we have in our cells if we're functioning at a high enough level. And so what we want to do is to make sure that we're doing whatever we need to do to keep our immune system at a level that when those invaders come, the body goes, oh no, you don't belong here. We're not going to let you get a foothold here. We're not going to let you set up a sickness and disease pattern. Because we don't do that, our electrical charge comes down, our shield comes down. So these invaders come in and our body doesn't even know it because it doesn't have enough snap, no pun intended, so that it can see that. And so that's really, really important to keeping ourselves healthy. And I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again because I know we have new people all the time. You can so train yourself that you can feel when a pathogen comes into your field. I'm talking about your electronic field, okay? And how you do that is you are just mindful of your body. You're constantly monitoring, how do I feel? How are my emotions? What's going on? How do I need to respond? This kind of thing. So as I was saying earlier, this is Thanksgiving, probably around 10 years ago. Don't really remember the exact date, but I do remember that I had been really, really in touch with my body and learning all the things that I'm teaching you today, right? And it was Thanksgiving weekend, and my son had said, Mom, I'm not going to work because I don't feel well. What time is Thanksgiving dinner? Told him. He came over. We had a brilliant dinner with the family. We watched the football, and then as he was leaving, he kissed me. And when he kissed me, and our family would kiss on the mouth, when he kissed me, I felt a spark. And I was like, oh no, I've just been infected. So I know that you can be so mindful of what's going on with your body, with your field, your energetic field, that when something passes that field, if you're paying attention, you're going to know that. So sure enough, I went to bed, didn't think too much about it, woke up the next morning feeling not right. I didn't feel sick, but I didn't feel correct. And so I immediately started taking my natural antibiotics, antivirals, and I set my phone every 2 hours. I would take a dose every 2 hours. By the end of Friday, I was right as rain. And so that's what you have to do holistically. You have to hit it hard, hit it fast. So you don't want these things multiplying in your body. So a lot of times, if you're not aware, and most people are not aware, no harm, no foul, you just haven't been taught. A lot of times people will wake up and they won't feel well, but they don't feel bad enough to go to the doctor. So they do whatever they do at home. They rest. They may have chicken soup. They may just go on about their day and not do anything for themselves holistically. Then the next day they feel a little bit worse, but not bad enough to go to the doctor. The next day they feel a little bit worse, but not bad enough to go to the doctor. On the next day, probably the 3.5 to 4th day, they're like done. They've got to get to the doctor. It's an emergency. And sure enough, they've got this full-blown infection. Why is that? That is because these tiny little pathogens, once they get into your body, it takes them several days to mount an army big enough to overpower your immune system, depending on how strong your immune system is. If you are aware when something comes into your field, I don't feel bad enough to go to the doctor, but I feel not right, then you start taking your natural remedies, and within 12 hours, it's usually a done deal. You don't usually have to do anything more than that. And so this is what I'm talking about, bioenergetics. Everything that makes us sick has a frequency. It has a charge. And so when we are aware that a charge has come into our field that is not compatible with who we are, then we need to take charge of that. We need to be proactive against that. As I said, hit it hard, hit it fast, so that we're not overcome by that pathogen. Now, maybe this just sounds a little bit like voodoo to you because you've never experienced it. But what you have experienced, you've been in a restaurant and all of a sudden the hair on the back of your neck just stands straight of attention, and you kind of get the shivers and you look around to see what's bothering you. Well, somebody or something that had I'm going to say negative as in not negative, positive polarity, but positive, beneficial or malevolent. Okay, so somebody with a malevolent intent or a malevolent or whatever has walked into your bioenergetic field, and you have felt that. You felt that when you have been in your vehicle and you're paying attention to the light, you're paying attention to the crosswalk, and all of a sudden you feel eyes looking on you, and you turn, and sure enough, the driver next to you is looking at you. And so these are things that we are aware of, but we don't realize how significant that is. So when we're talking about our health, when we're talking about our bioenergetic field, we can fine tune that so we know when we have been invaded. So that's really, really important. I know that somebody's going to think that I've just kind of lost my mind, but anyway, this is electrical phenomenon, okay? Now, this happens with sickness and disease because of free radical damage. So what is free radical damage? When you eat, when you take in your nutrition, you should be able to convert that into pure nutrition that your body uses to repair itself, okay? So when you don't have good digestion, when you don't have good elimination, what happens is that the chemical components or the chemical reactions in the body, they're not complete. So you've got these free electrons that are flying off into Never Never Land, and they're causing internal rust in your body. So when your electrical charge is high, you have less incidence of that. When your nutritional intake is high, you have less incident of that. So the free radical is an atom or a molecule that is short one electron, leaving it with a positive charge. This charge allows it to steal an electron from another atom or molecule. And this instability is linked to countless disease processes in the body. Antioxidants found in your food are beneficial to the body because they provide an electron to attach to that free radical, so it's not a free radical anymore. Does that make sense? We call oxidative stress, we liken it to iron that rusts, all right? So yes, on the inside of our body, we don't get rust, as it were, but what we do get is we get that charge is not there, so we get that free radical damage, and so we get that breakdown in our tissues. Now, we've seen this before, but I'm going to show you again. This is our biophotonic scanner, Pharmanex biophotonic scanner, and it has a laser right here. And so what this does is it measures the carotenoids in your skin. It doesn't hurt. It takes about 30 seconds. But what it does is it tells you on a scale from 10 to 90, 10,000 to 90,000, it tells you where you are as far as your antioxidant absorption. The higher your antioxidant absorption, the stronger your immune system is and the less signs of aging that you will have. Now, just to kind of give you a visual, I've got this little basket with all these bands because these are the different colors that will show up on your scan. So obviously, purple is the best. That is the highest antioxidant level that you can have. Red is the worst. So when you're in the red or the orange or the yellow or the green or the blue, you're not at optimum. We want everybody to be in the purple because that's when everything is working the way it needs to. So the antioxidants stop that free radical damage because you're not having these little electrons just spinning off doing their damage. And so that makes you a healthier person. And so that's really, really important. But antioxidants are not the only way that you can stop the free radical damage. There's another way that you can do that, and it is called earthing or grounding. So you may have heard of this. You may think it's just a bunch of malarkey, but we're going to talk about some different things that this really shows that this works, okay? Humans are made up of mostly water and minerals, calcium, phosphorus, potassium, and sulfur, which make us excellent conductors of electricity. So our cells' proper function depends on the quality and our ability to conduct electrical signals. So where we live, which is in South Texas, which is really hot, whenever we bought this building, we moved the clinic into downtown Humble. There's a street festival we have every year called Good Oil Days. Now, for those of you who don't know, Humble, Texas is where Umbel oil was discovered. Umbel became Esso, became Exxon, right? And so we've got this festival every year that harks back to our beginning of an oil town, an oil boom town. And so when we moved in, we decided we would get these little bottles of water. We put our name, we had our labels made, and we were handing them out as advertisement to the people as they were walking down the street. Now, this is normally held late March, early April, not so hot, but anyway, people need water. The number of people that said, oh, I never drink water. Oh, no, thank you. I never drink water. I drink anything but water. And the people that come in to see me, they say, no, I don't drink water. I drink tea. I drink coffee. I drink beer. I drink whatever, but nobody drinks water. So how do you make electricity? Minerals and water. So if you're not drinking your water, you're not going to be able to maintain that electrical charge. And if you don't maintain that electrical charge, then you're going to have free radical damage and sickness and disease. All right. Our inherent electrical nature and conductivity allows us to acquire electrical energy from the world around us. We live on a planet that has abundant electrical energy. The Earth's surface provides unlimited and a continual supply of free electrons that we can absorb into our body. Interestingly enough, though, these electrons actually come from the sun, which is another example of how the sun, has a positive effect on our body. Now, when you go outside and the sun is hitting you and it makes you happy, that's because of the electron transfer that you're needing to get rid of the free radicals. Everybody, I don't care who you are, you either are a beach person, you want to go to the beach because that's where you feel happiest, or you're a mountain person. You want to go to the mountains because that's where you feel happiest. Why is that? Well, at the beach, you've got this huge body of water that is full of these electrons. In the mountains, you're higher to the sun, so you've got more access to those electrons. And so when those free electrons are out there, your body can pick them up. It neutralizes the free radical damage, which neutralizes the inflammation and just helps you to feel better. All right. So some of the electrons land directly on the Earth, and some get temporarily detained about 60 miles above the Earth in the ionosphere. Now, these are released to us during when? During a thunder and lightning storm. So how many of you, raise your hand, because of course I can see through here now. When we've had a real bad thunderstorm, and I love thunder, and I love rain, but when you go outside and you can smell, it's that fresh smell, and then you can actually feel the electrical charge in the air. That is because you are grabbing those electrons that you need in order to balance the free radical damage in your body. So the Earth is electrically conductive and can pass those electrons on to us. We have to be in direct contact with the planet to receive them. That means no plastic sole shoes, okay? When you wear flip-flops or tennis shoes or anything like that that has a plastic sole, the electrons cannot pass into your body. So, but leather that is moist, so either from your sweat in your shoes or you've been walking outside where it's been damp, the electrons can go through the leather sole. It cannot go through the plastic sole. So we have to make sure that if we're grounding ourselves, if we're earthing ourselves, it's better to do that with zero things on our feet. No socks, no stockings, no shoes, no nothing, just our feet. So the plastic on the tennis shoes or the flip-flops acts like an insulator, just like the plastic on your hot wires in your house. The plastic on the wires is an insulator. So we don't want that insulator. We want to be able to absorb those electrons. So the easiest way to do this is to walk around on the ground barefoot, in the grass, at the beach, in the sand, okay? All those kind of things. Those help ground you because there's no impediment to the electrons getting into your body. They literally ground us, allowing our bodies to settle into an electron balance. Research has found that this process can have a wide range of physiological and psychological effects that includes lowered inflammation, thinning of the blood, preventing degenerative diseases, improving sleep, reducing pain, and enhancing many of the body's biological processes. So the process of doing this, as I said, is called grounding or earthing, and there is a noticeable body of research that demonstrates the beneficial physiological effects. Now, this research has been published in the Journal of Environmental and Public Health. And they say, and this is a quote, grounding, which is a surprisingly positive and overlooked environmental factor on health. There is mounting evidence that suggests that the Earth's negative potential can create a stable internal bioelectrical environment for normal functioning of all the body systems. Moreover, oscillations of the intensity of the Earth's potential may be important for setting the biological clocks, regulating the diurnal or the body rhythms, such as cortisol secretions and other hormones. So if you're having hormone issues, if you're having stress issues, then you might find that grounding is going to be something that really helps you. Now, I have here in my office, and I'm using right now, I have a grounding mat. You can have grounding sheets. You can have grounding, I've got a little marble thing right here that is grounding, that I keep my water on to keep my water grounded. So there are all kinds of things that you can do. And can you stay hooked up to this all the time? Probably not, but just a little bit every day is going to make a profound difference. So connecting to the earth has been shown to have powerful physiological effects, especially on the cardiovascular system and on your circulation. A small study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine investigated the effects of 2 hours of grounding on an electrical charge of red blood cells and the effect that the charge had on the clumping of red blood cells. So I want to show you this. Let me get out my little cheat sheet here. I think I have it here. So we do live blood cell analysis. This is live blood cell. The other one was dried blood cell. So when you're looking here, okay, see these blood cells? They're all free and individual. That's the way your blood should be, all right? That's good, healthy blood. Most people, when they come in, their blood looks like this. I'm trying to get the glare off. Can you see that right there? See how it's all clumped together? That's the way most people come in. And so that shows that they're not grounded and their blood doesn't have the right charge and everything is clumping together. When you've got the right charge, everything has its own little field and it moves individually and there's no clumps. So that's why it helps with your cardiovascular system, because that negative charge repels the other cells. And so that's really, really important. The study found that the grounding effect increased the surface charge of the red blood cells, which decreased blood viscosity. That means it thinned them out. Why? Because there's no clumping. Hello. That's how you get sick and that's how you get clots, is your blood is just clumped together. Most of the people that come in that we do live blood cell analysis on, their blood is clumpy. They need to ground. And this is something only 2 hours will make a huge difference. This is a quote. Grounding appears to be one of the simplest yet most profound interventions for helping reduce cardiovascular risk and cardiovascular events. Dr. Stephen Sinatra, a well-regarded cardiologist who passed away in 2022, integrated conventional medicine with complementary nutritional, mind, body, and lifestyle approaches. He says, or he was involved in much of the early research on the benefits of grounding. He says, in the body, the electrons have an anti-inflammatory effect because they reduce the free radical activity that causes inflammation and chronic pain. This is still another quote. The energy of the free electrons gained through grounding also helps keep your body's innate electrical circuitry properly balanced. All of these effects of grounding are extremely beneficial to heart health. So let's think about your home. right? So you plug too many things into the same outlet, what are you going to do? You're going to blow a fuse. You can repair that. You've got to get a new fuse and you've got to insert it and all that kind of stuff, but then all your stuff's going to work the way it's supposed to. Same thing in your body. When you have too many free radicals, you can blow a fuse, and what that looks like is sickness and disease. We don't want sickness and disease. I don't want you to have sickness and disease. And these little grounding mats, they are not expensive at all. Not even a little bit. Okay, I think you can get them for like $30. They're just, it's not like hundreds of dollars or anything like that. There are 24 or so completed studies on grounding that have proven beyond any doubt that becoming grounded has significant positive effects on our physiology and on our heart health. Grounding can ease or eliminate the symptoms of inflammation-related disorders, can lower stress, moderate heart rate variability, improve nervous system activity, and lower stress hormone secretions. Now, I just want to talk to you about heart rate variability because we test that here in the clinic. And it's real easy. I'll put some little jumper cables, that look like jumper cables, on your wrist, and then you just sit there for 3 minutes or 300 heartbeats, whichever comes first. And what we want to see is the variable interval between your R waves. You've got M waves, P waves, R waves. You've got all these different waves in your heart. And so heart rate variability measures the time between your R waves. And you want to have a great variety of time between the time you get to the next R wave. So why is that important? Because if you have a great variability in that, that means your heart is not stiff. Your heart is not static. Your heart is able to respond to stress. Your heart is able to respond to just different traumas in life. So we've all heard of the little old lady or the little old man that got this horrible report, kid in trouble, car wreck or whatever, and they had a heart attack and died. That is because that person did not have a flexible heart rate variability. If you do not have flexible heart rate variability, then when you have that trauma, you have that shock, it's going to be easier for you to go into cardiac arrest. So grounding increases your heart rate variability. It causes your heart to be more flexible and to be more fluid so that it can take any of the trauma, any of the stress. And we all have stress. I mean, all of us have stress. We live not in the Garden of Eden, and until we go back to the Garden of Eden, we're going to have these kind of issues that we're going to have to deal with. So if we ground ourselves, if we make sure that we have these free radicals married up to an electron, then the free radicals are not going to hurt us. So this grounding benefits our core systems, our cardiovascular health, our respiratory health, our circulation, and our nervous system. Now, Dr. Sinatra also found that grounding helped people that are in chronic pain. Another study in 2015 affirmed these findings, and it was in the Journal of Inflammation Research. It examined the effects of grounding on inflammation, the immune response, wound healing, and the prevention and treatment of chronic inflammatory autoimmune disease. Now, I just want to talk about wound healing because we've had a lot of experience of people not being able to heal. And a lot of times it is because they don't have the right minerals in their body, macro and micro minerals. And when we give them those supplements, it's a liquid, so it's all together. When we give them that supplement, within days, their body just starts to respond and that wound will close and heal. So if we're wanting to have our electrical charge be what it needs to be, we need water and we need minerals. We do iridology here in the clinic, and that's when we see the beautiful eye behind me. We do the evaluation of the eye or the assessment of the eye. And there are markers in the eye that show a certain subtype of people, and this is not a birth defect or anything like that, but a certain subset of people. I'm one of those. We use up our minerals probably faster than other people. So we constantly have to have that reintegration of minerals into our system so that we can operate at the highest electronic frequency that we can. So this is really important to know that, and nobody's going to tell you that. They're just not going to tell you that. There's another study, a news article that was published in Explore in 2020 that notes that earthing reduces pain, inflammation, stress, and improves blood flow, sleep, and vitality. The article described earthing as grossly overlooked in health and healing. There was another study published in 2022 that showed that connecting to the earth improved outcomes for patients that have this, I can't really say it out loud because I'll be kicked off the internet. You know what I'm talking about. But people that have that disease, if they would earth themselves or ground themselves, this study showed that if they had grounding for only 15 minutes per day, the research concluded that the earthing had a significant curative and preventative effects and resulted in a shorter duration of the illness. A particularly compelling study was published in Neonatology in 2017, that involved 26 premature babies and the neonatal intensive care. They connected them to grounding wires. The grounding caused the baby's heart rates to stabilize. In addition, their vagal tone, which is considered a vital measure of infant health, increased by 67% when grounded. So back in the day, before we had all the wonderful internet and television and all that kind of stuff, people were outside. They were naturally getting grounded. I remember playing outside in the trees. I remember we had a lake behind our house, and so we had water, we had the ground, we had a pool. And so all of those things are conducive, and just being outside in the sunlight, all of those things are conducive to natural grounding. So many kids today are inside on their tablets, on their phones, in front of the television, and so they're not getting outside and getting that grounding. So do what you can to make sure you're drinking enough water, half your body weight in ounces. So if you're 100 pounds, that's 50 ounces a day. Okay, if you drink a lot of coffee, you got to do more than that. If you drink a lot of alcohol, you got to do more than that. All right, if you drink a lot of iced tea, sweet iced tea, which is really famous here in South Texas, you've got to do more than that. And so you've got to balance that with the minerals. When you take those raw components and then you add earthing to it, that is a recipe for renewed health and less inflammatory response, less free radical damage. So lots of things you can do. You can come in. We can do this. Real easy test, $20, 30 seconds. I mean, it's just real easy. You can go outside with your feet barefoot, all right? Stand on the grass, stand in the sand, stand in the dirt. Go to the ocean. The smell of the ocean, the peace of the ocean is different because of the electrons. Here in town, here in the city, we've got all the electromagnetic smog, right? We've got the 5G generators, we've got all the Wi-Fi, we've got all the things that depress our vibrational frequencies and make us more susceptible to sickness and disease. So I know that was a lot. I hope I didn't geek out on you too much and that you understood what we were talking about. But you want to be able to do this. If you can't get to the beach or you can't get to the mountains and you don't want to go outside because it's hot, okay, I get that. But you can get an earthing mat for $30. Get it on Amazon, okay? Other big box store. They're not hard to get. There's even recipes out there for making their own. I asked Steve to make me a sheet, and he said, no way, Jose. So he was just afraid of all the currents, so I guess I'm going to have to buy one. But I do have earthing mats that I use all the time. So lots of information. It is the weekend. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for doing all the things. Love you so much, and I will see you next week.